Good morning. Happy Easter. This is Reverend Ann Murphy Oswald, and I'm so grateful to be able to share an Easter message with you. So thank you, Unity of the Eastern Shore, for giving me this opportunity to share with you. And to begin this morning, I'm going to begin with the daily word for today, Easter Sunday, April the 12th, 2020. The word for today is Easter. The affirmation for today: I recognize the risen Christ in family, friends, and my spiritual community. Early in the morning, on the day of resurrection, Jesus, unrecognized, joins two of his followers as they journey from Jerusalem toward the nearby village of Emmaus. Accepting an invitation to stay and share a meal, Jesus takes bread, blesses and breaks it, then gives it to his hosts. In that moment, their eyes are opened. They recognize Jesus, and alive in their hearts, he vanishes from their sight. Later, the two explain to others how the risen Christ became a living presence to them in the fellowship of breaking bread. Easter celebrates the risen Christ, an immortal presence freed from all limitations, awaiting discovery in every person and life event. I recognize the risen Christ in shared experiences with family, friends, and my spiritual community. And from the book of Luke, then their eyes were opened and they recognized him, and he vanished from their sight. And the affirmation: I recognize the risen Christ in family, friends, and my spiritual community. So let's just go into the silence for a few moments as we take these words into our hearts. Let's just gently close our eyes as we take these words into our hearts. I recognize the risen Christ in family, friends, and my spiritual community. So it's times like this that we really come to appreciate our spiritual community and our friends and our family, when we are forced by circumstances to not always be in the physical presence of them. We really have a renewed gratitude for those times together. And we do know that we will come together again. And we take this opportunity, this time, to be a part, to just love and appreciate, to pray for each other, to connect through the phone. I know the Unity of Eastern Shore has been sending out emails, and I know you're most likely are connecting together by phone, and sometimes you can do the distance. My granddaughter and great-granddaughter and daughter came by and just waved to me from the car, got out of the car, and we kept the 6-foot distancing, but we were able to have a little bit of a visit. So there are opportunities out there to connect with family and friends. And we're very blessed down here in southern Alabama to have this beautiful weather, to be outside, to walk, to enjoy the blossoming of springtime. And so this last week was Easter week, the most holy week of the year in the Christian community. And Thursday, of course, was Holy Thursday, and it was a day that Jesus celebrated the Passover feast with his apostles and friends, and they gathered together in the upper room. And they had a lovely Passover feast together. Jesus washed the feet of the apostles, and he spoke to them and reminded them to love one another as he had loved them, and that they should do this in memory of him. And what I always thought that was to mean, to come together in community. And then Jesus looked down the table at his apostles and friends, and he saw Peter, and he knew in his heart that Peter was going to deny him 3 times. And he looked at Judas, and he knew what was going to transpire with Judas. And he looked at the other apostles and realized that they were going to disappear in fear, at this shelter in place in fear at this time. And so he called the innkeeper over and said to the innkeeper, "For tonight, let's make it separate checks." Now, hopefully you're laughing. I hope you're laughing. I'm laughing. And I like to tell a joke, usually at the beginning of my services, because first of all, it relaxes me, allows me to breathe deeply and sort of release some of the tension that perhaps is in my physical body. And hopefully it'll relax you. And if you're relaxed, you'll be more open to hear what I have to say today. So now that story does not reflect my belief about Jesus. It portrays him as being sort of to get even, to be on top, a little bit of perhaps being selfishness and the values of the world. But Jesus said, "I have overcome the world." And so it's not my view of Jesus. And for me, Jesus was a man of love. And once there lived a man of love. And everywhere he went, he spoke words of love. He saw all of the people that he met with the eyes of love, and he listened with love. And he taught people that they were there to love one another, and he taught them that they were the children of a loving Mother, Father, God, the same as he was. And many people began to believe him. And they began to follow him, and he would gather along the rivers and and in the hillsides, and he would speak to them of love and mercy and compassion. And he'd speak to them of loving one another as he had loved them. Well, the people who ran the world at the time began to hear of this man of love and all of his followers. And they said to one another, "Well, if love begins to rule the world, there will be no need for judges or magistrates or kings. So we have to do something about this sweet-talking love man." And so they devised a plan, and they thought that they could get to betray him through love. And so they recruited one of those who loved him, and they offered him some money to betray him. And the sign of betrayal was to be a sign of love, a kiss. And one evening, when the man of love was gathered with his followers, his friend came up and kissed him on the cheek. And the soldiers came out from the bushes and arrested him. And his followers, his friends, became angry. And one of them even drew a sword. And the man of love looked at him and said, "Is this what love has taught you? Is this what love has taught you?" And in shame, he dropped the sword. And they brought the man of love from one court to another court. And none of them wanted to call him guilty. Who wanted to kill love? And in their hearts, they knew that he was innocent. But finally, they decided that he should be hung, not by a noose, but up on a cross, crucified, because that was the tradition of the day, and because it hurt more. And he went peacefully with the guards, and they put him up on the cross, and he spoke some words of love. He said, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." And he looked down at his feet where his friend and his mother were, and he said to his mother, "Mother, behold my son." And he said to his friend John, "John, behold thy mother." And we're going to change scenes a little bit. We're moving to a courtroom scene. It could be anywhere. It could be in Baldwin County. It could be in Mobile, Chicago, Illinois, New York. There's an African-American woman. She's in there to witness the trial of the 18-year-old young man who was a member of a white supremacist gang who murdered her 12-year-old son. Now, all the evidence has been presented, and the attorney for the young man, in the last-ditch effort, decides to put the young man on the stand and allow him to present himself, thinking that perhaps if the judge hears his story, that he will be a little more lenient in his sentencing. And so the young man gets on the stand. He's stoic, unemotional, tells about how he was recruited by the hate group, and then begins to sob, bows his head and says, "I never had a family. I never had a mother. Perhaps if I had had a mother." He bows his head and continues to sob. There's a hush in the courtroom until a voice, clear, loving, compassionate, says, "I will be your mother." All the heads in the courtroom turn and realize it's the mother of the dead boy. It's the mother of the dead boy. The young man on the stands raises his head and says, "You will be my mother?" The woman stands and calmly says, "Yes, my son is dead. And as long as I'm alive, I will be your mother." Now let's return to the crucifix scene. And Jesus says, the man of love says, "Mother, behold your son. Son, behold your mother." Now he doesn't say many more words, and he dies. And the soldiers give his body to his friends, and they place it in a tomb, and they place a large boulder in front of the tomb. And the man of love rests. But what the people of the world, the leaders of the world, didn't know is you can't crucify love. You can't kill love. You can't bury it in a tomb. For love always rises. Love always rises. Now the man of love, Jesus the Christ, is no longer here on this earth, but we are. And we are the people of love. I believe when Jesus said, "Mother, behold your son, son, behold your mother," he was telling us that we are part of one large human family. We're here to love and support each other. Author Brené Brown says, we belong to each other. We are inextricably connected to each other. But sometimes it's hard for us to really believe that, or we have little issues that come up for us in our lives that sort of prevent us from truly expressing the love of who we are, our true nature. So we need to have some skills to help us move out of the tomb of darkness into the light, to crash that stone that's blocking the love of who we are. And for most of us, it isn't a great big boulder. For most of us, it's a little pebble. Did you ever have a little pebble in your shoe? You know how irritating it is? When you finally get it out, you look at it and it was so really tiny, but really caused a lot of grief and discomfort for you. So for us today, we're going to discover those big boulders or those little pebbles that are holding us back from expressing the Christ of who we are, the people of love of who we are. So we're going to have a bit of a meditation, And so I invite you now to just gently close your outer eye. Let's just close our outer eyes. And I'm going to put some, I want to be able to still, be able for you to still hear me. Let's just close our outer eyes. And let's just breathe. Let's just take a deep breath. And another deep breath. Let's move into our heart space. Take another deep breath. And let's just give a sigh of release. We're ready to release. And as we move into our heart space, move deep into our own heart. And we just breathe. What have we been learning? What wisdom has guided us? What would we change? What action, behavior, or belief is ready to be released? Blocking our purpose. Let's notice what we're ready to release. It can be an unforgiveness, a limiting belief about ourselves, an error thought. What is it that no longer serves us? What is it that no longer serves us when we remember that we are the people of love? That we are the people of love. Let's just breathe. Breathe in and exhale. Breathe in love. Feel it in your heart space. And breathe out anything you wish to release. Breathe in clarity. Breathe out anything that blocks you from your divine purpose. Breathe in the holy love that you are. Breathe out anything that no longer serves your sacred heart. Breathe in love. Exhale love into the world around you. Exhale love out into the world around you. And let us just rest in the silence. Let's just continue to breathe in love and exhale love into the world around us. With our eyes continuing to be closed, let's allow our breathing to return to normal. Let's bring our consciousness to the indwelling Christ, the divine indwelling in each of us, the place of knowing. You sense it in your consciousness. You feel it within your own holy self. Always available to guide us, always with us. The perfect idea in the mind of God. You may have heard a word or sensed a word. You might have seen a vision. Or you may simply know that something new and blessed is rising up within you, allowing you to be transformed. Let's all rise up to this new time and this new place. We are awakened into a new world, a world in which each of us are expressing light and radiance. Welcome to this new world. As you see or sense or feel the light of the holy shining through you and around you, let's gently open our eyes, take a deep breath and smile, remembering we are the people of love. Happy Easter. Before our time together comes to a close, I'd like to just bring into our awareness all of those who are serving us, as they say, on the front lines. All of the hospital workers, the nurses and the doctors and the technicians and the cleaning staff and the dietary staff and everybody. It takes a village, as they say. All of our police officers and the restaurants and the grocery stores that are staying open. And we encircle them, all of them who are serving us in love and in compassion. We circle them in a circle of love and connection. And we know that we are part of one family. We are here to be the people of love. So let's especially remember all of our people on the front lines and, of course, the EMTs. I just can't name all of them, but we know all of them are out there on the front lines serving us and loving us at this time. And we remember that we belong to each other. We are inextricably connected to each other. And we know that love can overcome hate and fear and cruelty. That love always rises up. You cannot kill love. Love is who we are. Love is our spiritual nature that never dies, that always was and always will be. Gentleness and love always rises. The circle of life and love is big enough to include all of us. I just wanted to acknowledge the two stories that I told, The Man of Love. It isn't a word for word. It was inspired by James Gillett Freeman, his story called The Man of Love. And the story about the courtroom scene was from Jim Rosemurgey's book, The Third Coming. And it is an urban myth, but it really isn't a myth, because a myth is something that points us to truth. And it can be true. It truly can be true because we are inextricably connected to each other. We belong to each other. And thank you again so much for allowing me to give this Easter message. I love you. I bless you. I appreciate you. And I behold the Christ as you. Happy Easter.